What's up, everyone? So, in keeping with the Kenya Basketball Federation scandals, not yet Uhuru for KPA in equity semis debacle, the dates and times for the rematch set for a fanless Makande Hall will be communicated at a later date. I knew it. They're gonna, do it in a bubble. I predicted it. Told people that I made sure to make people aware that any fan interference would lead to the game being held in a bubble, and it came true. The Kenya Basketball Federation Men's League Playoff Semis Game 5 match between former champions KPA and Equity Dumas will be replayed, as I predicted. The Federation, through their Secretary General Ambrose Kisoi, released its verdict following a protest by the bankers concerning the conduct of home fans in Game 4 and 5 played in Makande. So this is what I find interesting. They will say that this KPA versus Equity Dumas game will not have any fans in there. But if you look at even the previous series that took place there, the KPA versus Equity Women's, they had fans, everything was just okay. So is it a federation issue, or is it just a fans interference issue? Because okay, I understand there's a fan that came in and interfered with the game, but if you institute like a rule and say no fans, there should be no fans allowed in whatsoever everywhere, like around KPA Makande, or even if you're that strict, you'll say we don't want any fans even in Nyayo or something like that. Because if you're citing fan interference, what makes you think that fans are not going to interfere again? Even in, let's say, for example, Ulinzi rematch with KPA, and there's a game that has to go to Mombasa, or let's say, something like that. So this situation, the federation, I don't know how they dealt with it, because it doesn't even make any logical sense. Dumas had won their first 2 games in Nairobi and needed one win to seal a maiden finals berth. After KPA versus Equity Game 4, Equity write to Kenya Basketball Federation about security concerns during the game. This was a tweet by Apache. KBF took no action and allowed Game 5 to tip off regardless. Now the two teams will pay the price of mismanagement of the league by the federation. So you can see the federation is incompetent. They got sent a letter by Equity Dumas raising their concerns. They did nothing. Now after everything has blown over and they shot themselves in the foot, they faulted both teams, and they're saying that they're trying to just do damage control. And what I find funny is this is a whole federation that it represents that is a huge body in the country representing basketball. They can't even buy a simple domain to have their own website, even their own email address. They still use Gmail like any other regular person. So that's actually interesting. For a professional body of that magnitude to use Gmail, it's beyond me. And moving forward, I digress. Moving forward, KPA, however, overturned the result, leveling the series 2-2, and were leading 50-38 at the end of the third quarter. As was score sheet of the day before Dumas walked out with 59 seconds in the clock, and the score reading 66-54 in favor of the home team. That's KPA. In email communications to the SG, Fixtures Secretary Joseph Omoko and the Fixtures Committee, where he sits as the chair, Equity Dumas team manager Zado Kadika wrote an email addressing fan trouble in Makande and asked the federation to take action, which they didn't. They had to wait until the last game where they realized that they clearly made a mistake. Now that's when they're acting. After the Game 5 match that the Dumas walked out with 59 seconds left in regulation, Adika again wrote another letter detailing the conduct of fans. So this letter, part of the letter reads, the issue was worse today with players getting into the court, or with fans getting in the court wherever they want, and even hitting our player, preventing him to go for the fast break. During a timeout, the same fan entered the court and poured some liquid onto the ball and sat on the ball. These are just a few of the incidents that make the game difficult to continue. So you can see the clear fan interference is a problem that the Kenya Basketball Federation are ill-equipped to handle. They only know how to do damage control. They can't even foresee it or even prevent it. And it goes to show you that they're somewhat not competent in what they do. KPA ladies and men basketball. So this is a tweet from KPA. Qualify for the Kenya Basketball Federation League playoff finals. The ladies team dismissed the Storms with a clean sweep. This actually happened in Game 3, Storms vs KPA. They got swept, and now they're looking for KPA to go to the finals. But these variables being considered, the legitimacy of KPA winning wasn't looking realistic or bleak because there are so many scandals or even fan interference going into it. So a source who sought anonymity revealed to Mozart Sport that both the Dumas and KPA team managers who are part of the league and competitions committee that sat down to deliberate on the issue were excluded due to conflict of interest. The committee then gave its recommendation to the executive, who reached the decision of a replay, which rightfully so should have happened, because considering the fact that there's so much fan interference and a disturbance for the players, and the players are the actual guys who are playing, it doesn't sit right with them just saying KPA should just continue, because there's actual video footage of fan interference. In the verdict, the federation adjudged the two teams to have flouted KBF and FIBA rules. KPA are said to have gone against the KBF league and competition rules, clause 16. So I mean that's the whole thing. As much as the KBF saw that they made a mistake, they just had to throw fault at somebody. They just had to blame them so that they don't look bad. So clause 16A, it shall be duty of the federation to ensure that proper safety arrangements are made for the visiting team, referees, commissioners, and table officials during the league games. Part B goes on to say, if the ground requires a security protection to stop spectators from interfering in the game, it shall be the duty of the home team to provide such security, and if not provided, the referee stops the game. The home team may lose the match by default. Yeah, I mean, they're very strict at what they put on paper, but on the ground, that's not what they did, right? They actually said, let the game continue. The fans came in and interfered. Now when Equity elected to walk away, that's when the federation came in citing all these rules. It's a bunch of incompetent people. On the other part, Dumas were in violation of the FIBA official basketball rules at 20. The forfeiture rule states that a team shall lose the game by forfeit if the team is not present or unable to field 5 players ready to play in 15 minutes after the game is scheduled to begin. Its action prevents the game from being played. It refuses to play after being instructed to do so by the crew chief. You cannot be instructed to play. Sometimes I feel the KBF rules, the rules that were there, trump even the FIBA rules. And in this sense, if there's fan interference and clearly the fans are interfering with the game, I should not be forced to play that game or finish. And it's in their right to walk out. And that is why we find ourselves in this situation. Sometimes some rules, they're trying to put it as ironclad, but sometimes they don't work in set situations. And so what the Equity Dumas did actually, in my eyes, was right. If something like that happens, if something like that happens, you have to, do something about it. But one thing I don't understand, if this clearly happened in Game 3, you people, the Equity Dumas, you should have just said, if you're not going to reply to that email, we are not suiting up for that game. You should have said that, and categorically so. If you just did that, you'll have been in a different position than you are in right now. Efforts to reach the Secretary General to clarify whether the referees of the day in the report had indicated inability to control the crowd, leading to stopping the match, were futile. So, you see, even the referees are in on the conspiracy as well. They do not want to answer any questions because they don't want to look bad, and it's actually making our federation and the level of Kenyan basketball look so absolutely pathetic, and you truly hate to see it. You truly hate to see it. So that's what I think about it, and it reflects poorly on KBF and also the Kushdumas. If you guys were serious about signing fan interference, you didn't have to wait until it got worse. One thing I would have said, if you saw these telltale signs in Game 3 and you finished Game 3 in protest, you should have said, we are not playing Game 4 or even a Game 5 if there's going to be any until you fix this. Even if it's gonna be postponed, you should have had that stance. But just don't go in and play. Then when things get rough, you walk away. It creates this huge mess, causing a replay. So okay, the replay is good. It has mitigated everything in a bubble, but you should have requested it after game three. Be like, these fans are interfering. We don't want fans in our arena. We don't want fans in that home court. And also, the federation should provide security, not the home team. Should have provided security because you have the ability to provide security. It's just that you don't want to spend that money. So that's how I react to it. Those are my final submissions. Yeah, I mean that situation is just a murky situation, and it's just crazy at this point. So if you guys like the video, make sure to leave your feedback down in the comment section on what you think, what KBA should have done differently, what you think KPA or Equity would have done differently, and just leave your feedback down in the comment section. That being said, I'm out. Peace.